The Crythian Empire had conquered 400 star systems in their relentless expansion across the Perseus Arm. Their military doctrine was simple, brutal, and effective: identify the enemy's emotional weaknesses and exploit them without mercy. Fear was a weapon sharper than any plasma blade, and the Crythians had mastered its use over 3 millennia of warfare. General Thexkal stood on the obsidian bridge of the dreadnought Endless Sorrow, reviewing tactical displays with cold satisfaction. The human colony of New Haven had resisted for 6 months, an impressive feat for such a primitive species. But resistance always ended the same way. The human settlement's shield generators are failing, his tactical officer reported, mandibles clicking with anticipation. Civilian sectors are exposed. Good, Thexkal rumbled. Deploy hunter-killer drones to the residential districts. Target the young ones first. When humans see their offspring culled, their will to fight collapses. We've seen it on 12 previous worlds. The drones descended through New Haven's smoke-filled sky like metallic locusts, their targeting algorithms programmed for one purpose: maximum psychological impact. The attacks were surgical, calculated, designed to break the human spirit in a single devastating strike. Among the targeted structures was a modest habitat on the colony's eastern edge. Inside, a woman named Dr. Elena Vasquez worked frantically at her medical station, treating wounded resistance fighters. Her daughter, 7-year-old Maya, sat in the corner, coloring pictures of Earth, a planet she'd never seen but dreamed about from her mother's stories. The drone's plasma bolt punched through the reinforced wall without warning. Elena screamed, diving toward her daughter. But physics cared nothing for a mother's desperation. The superheated energy struck Maya before Elena could cover the distance, and the little girl's drawing, a crayon picture of a blue sky and green grass, fluttered to the floor, edges curling from the heat. Time stopped. Elena cradled Maya's small body, her hands already knowing what her mind refused to accept. The child's eyes, so bright with life moments before, stared at nothing. Her last words had been, "Mommy, look, I made Earth pretty." Something broke inside Elena Vasquez. But it wasn't her spirit. It was a cage. The Crythian generals congratulated themselves as resistance across New Haven crumbled. Humans abandoned their positions, fleeing to mourn their dead. The battle was over. The planet would surrender within hours. Then the sensors picked up an anomaly. "General," the tactical officer's voice carried a note of confusion. "We're detecting a massive energy spike from the planet's surface. Sector 7 Echo. It's off our scale." Thexkal's compound eyes narrowed. "Identify the source." "Sir, it's coming from the medical facility we just struck. The energy signature doesn't match any known human technology. It's reading as biological. And it's still increasing." "Biological?" Thexkal leaned forward. "That's impossible. Human biology doesn't." The viewscreen flared white. When it cleared, they saw her. Dr. Elena Vasquez stood in the ruins of her habitat, but she wasn't the same woman who had been treating wounded soldiers an hour ago. Her eyes burned with light that shouldn't exist in organic tissue. The air around her rippled and warped as reality itself struggled to contain what she'd become. In her arms, she still held Maya's body, and that image, a mother holding her dead child, would haunt Crythian military archives for generations. "What is she?" someone whispered on the bridge. Elena looked up at the sky, at the dreadnought hanging in orbit like a monument to cruelty, and she spoke. Her voice shouldn't have been audible in vacuum, shouldn't have carried across 300 kilometers of atmosphere, but every being on that ship heard her with perfect clarity. "You killed my daughter." The words were simple. The rage behind them was cosmic. What the Crythians didn't know, what humans themselves barely understood, was that their species carried a genetic legacy from a war fought long before they'd left their home world. Millennia ago, an ancient race called the Architects had seeded dozens of worlds with biological weapons disguised as primitive life. Humanity was one such weapon, designed to lie dormant until activated by specific trauma triggers. The death of a child at a parent's hands was one such trigger. Elena rose into the sky without propulsion, without technology, defying physics through sheer will made manifest. The dormant genetic sequences in her DNA had awakened, rewriting her biology in real time. She was becoming what the architects had designed, a living weapon of mass destruction. "Fire everything!" Thexkal screamed. "Kill her now!" The endless sorrow unleashed its full arsenal. Plasma cannons, kinetic impactors, fusion missiles, enough firepower to vaporize a small moon converged on Elena's position. She raised one hand. The weapon stopped in mid-air, suspended in a field of impossible energy. Then, with a gesture that looked almost lazy, she redirected them back toward the ship. The Endless Sorrow, pride of the Crithian fleet, flagship of 100 conquests, exploded in a cascade of secondary detonations that turned night into day across New Haven's surface. But Elena wasn't finished. She ascended higher, breaking atmosphere in seconds, moving through the void as if it were water. The remaining Crithian vessels, 3 battlecruisers, 12 destroyers, countless support craft, scrambled to retreat. But she was faster. One by one, she tore them apart. Not with weapons or technology, but with thought made tangible. Hull plating crumpled like paper. Engines exploded. Crew members died instantly as she ruptured their ship's life support systems with surgical precision. It wasn't rage anymore. It was something colder, more terrible. It was judgment. On the surface of New Haven, the surviving colonists watched in stunned silence as their sky filled with burning debris. They'd heard stories of humanity's hidden potential, ancient legends about what people became when pushed past the breaking point. But stories were one thing. Witnessing it was another. Within 20 minutes, the entire Crithian invasion force was destroyed. Not a single vessel escaped. Elena floated in the orbital debris field, surrounded by the wreckage of an armada, and the power that had awakened in her began to fade. The genetic trigger was temporary, a burst of overwhelming force designed to eliminate immediate threats. As the energy drained away, she descended back toward New Haven, back toward the ruined medical station. Back to where Maya's body lay. She collapsed beside her daughter, human again, powerless again. But the tears that came were mixed with something other than grief. They were mixed with satisfaction. 3 days later, a Crithian diplomatic vessel approached New Haven under a flag of truce. The Empire's High Council had reviewed the battle recordings. They'd analyzed the energy signatures. They'd consulted their oldest archives and found references to the architect's biological weapons program. The Council's message was brief: the Crithian Empire withdraws all claims to human-occupied space. We will not engage human forces. We will not target human civilians. This ceasefire is permanent. The message didn't include an apology. It didn't express remorse for Maya or the thousands of other children they'd killed. It was simply a calculation, a species that had built an empire on calculated cruelty, recognizing that they'd finally encountered a line they couldn't cross. Dr. Elena Vasquez attended her daughter's funeral 3 days later. She stood before a small grave marker, surrounded by colonists who looked at her with a mixture of awe and fear. She didn't blame them. She barely recognized herself. The colony's governor approached hesitantly. "Dr. Vasquez, the Galactic Council wants to speak with you. They want to understand what happened. What you are." Elena didn't look away from Maya's grave. "Tell them I'm a mother," she said quietly. "Tell them we're all mothers and fathers, sisters and brothers. Tell them that humans love deeply, and we grieve deeply." She finally turned, and the governor stepped back from the intensity in her eyes. "And tell them that if anyone ever targets our children again, they'll discover that grief can have teeth." The governor nodded and retreated, leaving Elena alone with her daughter. In orbit above New Haven, a memorial satellite broadcast a simple message in every known language across the galaxy: "Here lies Maya Vasquez, age 7. She dreamed of Earth. She died drawing a picture of blue skies. Her death awakened something the galaxy had forgotten: humanity's capacity for love is matched only by its capacity for vengeance. Choose wisely how you treat us."